Where? Cuba.
Welcome to the show, and welcome to Glow So Bright. This is a recent RED4CE tracking report written and published on March 30th, 2026. Precedence is routine. Bottom line up front, Chinese Communist Party-backed organizations conduct propaganda campaign for a Cuban regime. Breakthrough reporting on CCP-backed Singham organizations published. Arrests made on attempted IED deployment in the vicinity of CENTCOM headquarters. Boogaloo Boy figurehead self-admits to being FBI informant. No King's protests happened throughout the United States, bankrolled by the elite. Globally, over at Cuba, Nuestra America, which self-proclaims itself as a global humanitarian mission for Cuba, has conducted operations from March 18 to late March 2026. David Adler, a Jewish American, is the lead organizer and coordinator for the Progressive International and Nuestra America organizations, as reported by the New York Times. On March 21st, the Nuestra America convoy would meet with the president and representatives of the Cuban Institute of Friendship with the Peoples, ICAP. The United States Coast Guard has stated on March 21st, 2026 on X, entering Cuban territorial seas and returning to the United States without proper permit is illegal. Vessels or persons attempting to enter the United States unlawfully by sea will be stopped and repatriated to their country of origin or the country they departed from. High-profile individuals were seen entering Cuba from sea vessels and aircraft, such as Hassan Piker, Kneecap, Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin, and Aliska Kulvukch, and other elements such as the Democrat Socialists of America. Despite Nuestra America claiming that Cuba is in a humanitarian crisis, thus their justification for being in Cuba, these participants were sheltered in five-star luxury hotels, had the presence of elite security, and had unrestricted use of electricity over the people during a time of national blackouts. Specifically, Hassan Piker was wearing luxury designer clothing and jewelry throughout the whole duration of the trip, flaunting a significant amount of wealth while supporting communism and the Cuban regime. Significantly with more affluence than that of even higher esteemed positions in Cuban society, like a military officer or a doctor. $1,500 Cartier glasses, a $3,000 Cartier ring, a $700 button-up shirt, just to name a few. Yet to educate the Cuban people on how positive communism is and that all their struggles are actually due to America. During a guarded motorcade, Hassan would throw coins and food at children to make them dance, much like trying to feed birds or zoo animals, essentially treating Cuba as a safari. Kneecap was a showman for a concert, and the equipment used, such as lights and sound equipment, has contributed to the overloading of the national power grid and exacerbated blackouts. These blackouts have been catastrophic for human life, such as infirm people currently under surgery and life support equipment, which needs electricity to operate, causing deaths in a local hospital. 20 members of Code Pink, upon return to Miami International Airport, were detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection personnel. 18 of the Code Pink members had electronic devices confiscated, such as laptops and cell phones. Most members of the broader group, such as high-profile individuals such as Hassan Piker, were not reported as members of the detained, nor had their electronic devices confiscated. No one is charged for a violation of sanctions, and Piker continues to do streams as well as scheduled public speaking events. The president of ICAP, Ferdinando Gonzalez Yort, is a key spy master and intelligence officer for Cuban intelligence services and was reported on previous Glow So Bright reporting, specifically on Armed Careers SLC on September 17, 2025. The recent Nuestra Academy activity has further galvanized Cuba's role, as well as Gonzalez's involvement in human intelligence as well as information warfare and PSYOP operations. Since the capture of Nicolas Maduro on January 2026 by U.S. forces, Cuba has reduced ability to conduct their government and is further isolated. Thus, this operation draws parallels to much of these communist regimes, such as North Korea's state-backed tourism. Obtain political power and foreign international currencies through wealthy foreigners who are sympathetic figureheads of communist regimes and Marxist ideology. Give them luxuries, a guided tour with elite security and a better taste of life than much of the higher rungs of the commoners of their society. Guide them through pedunct stages and set pieces, as well as central and modernized areas in the capital city, and further indoctrinate them. Especially since this can be a way for funding and support to bypass sanctions through Chinese-backed organizations such as Roy Singham's Party of Socialism and Liberation, the DSA, and Code Pink. yet in a way to also raise soft power and political influence. With the obvious contact with Cuban intelligence assets and the breaking of sanctions, the United States federal government has not done enough to detain and punish individuals acting on behalf of a foreign agent. It is extremely likely that if the Cuban government is still intact, they will do a similar operation to Nuestra America as a May Day Brigade event on late April to early May 2026, as it shows itself to be a reliable enough way to obtain goods and internationally traded currencies by circumvention of sanctions, increased IO and PSYOP operations, as well as further support from CCP-backed Singham organizations, especially since there has been no appreciable deterrence from the United States, except for self-inflicted problems such as the overstretch in available resources such as electricity to allocate to the rich foreigners, at the expense of people such as deaths in the hospital. So that Cuba can be free, the PCC needs to be removed. In Hong Kong, as of March 23, 2026, it is now a criminal offense to refuse to give Hong Kong police the passwords or other means to unlock electronic devices. The United States Department of State, in a travel advisory for United States citizens, states that Hong Kong, on March 23, 2026, the Hong Kong government changed the implementing rules relating to the national security law. It is now a criminal offense to refuse to give the Hong Kong police the passwords or decryption assistance to access all personal electronic devices, including cell phones and laptops. This legal change applies to everyone, including U.S. citizens, in Hong Kong, arriving or just transiting Hong Kong International Airport. In addition, the Hong Kong government has more authority to take and keep any personal devices as evidence that they claim are linked to national security offenses. Analysts comment, it is more advisable to transit through other countries such as Thailand and Singapore for East Asian travel. If travel through Hong Kong is necessary, different electronic devices would be advised for possession. Over at the home front, Fox News Digital published breakthrough reporting from March 24 to 30, 2026, and likely ongoing, detail Neville Roy Singham's transnational networks, often referred to as Singham networks. Singham, an American-born Marxist tech tycoon now based in Shanghai, has funneled at least $278 million directly, with total money flows analyzed at $591 million across 223 transactions into a layered web of approximately 2,000 hard-left organizations worldwide since 2017. Funds move through donor-advised funds, shell-like entities, and core nonprofits including, but not limited to, the People's Forum, Breakthrough BT Media Incorporated, Code Pink, Tricontinental Limited, Justice and Education Fund, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Answer Coalition, and the Democratic Socialists of America. The Fox News report would cite first-hand primary sources such as media published by entities controlled by or belonging to the Chinese Communist Party, such as the Shanghai Global South Academic Forum, IRIS Form 990 filings, archival links from official websites, and social media accounts. This network functions as a united front and propaganda apparatus aligned with the Chinese Communist Party interests and Maoist doctrine, coordinating activism, revolutionary tourism, and information operations that amplify anti-US narratives while supporting autocratic regimes in Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, China, and others. Analysts comment, the timing of the Fox reporting coincides directly with the Nuestra America convoy to Cuba, where Singham-funded entities provided media amplification and logistical support for what amounts to a sanctioned circumvention and PSYOP operation benefiting the Cuban regime. Singham's network effectively launders foreign influence to astroturfed grassroots activism in media, creating an ideological pipeline that sows domestic discord while bolstering adversarial soft power. This represents the classic Maoist People's War strategy executed for nonprofits, with minimal apparent deterrence or FARA enforcement to date. The network scale, estimated combined revenues in the billions, including affiliates, enables rapid mobilization for both internal solidarity tours, U.S. street actions, and domestic paramilitary activity. Singham networks, and by extension the CCP, have also supported and facilitated multiple Marxist armed groups within the United States. There are some examples of this. Jason Hamilton is a PSL member and one of the co-founders of the Socialist Rifle Association. Ermia Fanayan is a founder of Armed Queers SLC, which has conducted joint operations with the Elm Fork John Brown Gun Club. The Elm Fork John Brown Gun Club, as well as the Dallas-Fort Worth SRA, had members make up the North Texas Antifa cell, a group which conducted a coordinated armed attack on the Pearland ICE facility in July 2025, resulting in attempted murder by the cell leader Benjamin Song. The U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is conducting an ongoing investigation into Singham. Singham has not responded to any requests by the House Committee to provide documents and information demonstrating of alleged funding and control over certain far-left entities, including the Party for Socialism and Liberation. In other areas nationwide, on March 28, 2026, No Kings protests happened for a third time within the United States. Playbook and methods are similar. Have a section of groups backed by Singham or AstroTurf by Indivisible or other financial elite, gather the young, like college age and younger in the geriatric. Then be present in one location for a small duration of time, get photos and media, then shift over to another area with the same signs and people just to give the illusion that there is more public support than depicted, outside of major metropolitan areas. Openly communist groups are present in New York City, backed by the Communist Party USA, among other Marxist groups. Over in downtown Los Angeles, California, there were clashes between protesters and law enforcement by the Metropolitan Detention Center. Around 1730 local time, tear gas was deployed after objects were thrown over the perimeter or struck law enforcement personnel. Multiple arrests followed as the situation escalated from the earlier peaceful march phase. In Portland, Oregon, a perimeter gate surrounding the Portland ICE facility was breached at approximately 1830 local time. While the perimeter was breached, law enforcement quickly repelled the crowd. Analysts comment, there has appeared to be more turnout from previous iterations of No Kings, with catalysts such as joint U.S.-Israel military activity in Iran, as well as a lack of any domestic arrests of notable individuals seen in the Epstein files. Rural areas appear to have the same methods of show up, film, scoot, then reappear in the same location, yet turnout in the thousands have appeared in major metropolitan areas. While it's too early to tell for this iteration, previous No Kings protests have been used to recruit members into Marxist armed groups, such as Armed Careers SLC historically. Hey, at least there aren't any fatalities this time around. Over in Florida, around March 10, 2026 at approximately 11:20 local time, an IED was placed in around the visitor center of MacDill Air Force Base. Out of an abundance of caution, first responders established a cordon and diverted traffic to the Bayshore Gate at approximately 1700 local time. The incident was terminated, and the scene was declared safe. Normal gate operations have resumed. The IED did not detonate. 911 was called regarding the emplacement of the IED allegedly by the suspect, according to the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of Florida, Gregory Cahoe, during a press conference held on March 12, 2026. The FBI arrested his sister, Anne Mary Zheng, age 30. She has been charged by indictment with assisting after the fact related to her brother allegedly planting the IED. The alleged suspect is identified as Alan Zheng, age 20, a U.S. citizen. Zheng fled to China and is still at large. He is charged by the Justice Department by indictment with attempted damage of government property by fire or explosion, unlawful making of a destructive device, and possession of an unregistered destructive device. If convicted, Zheng faces a minimum penalty of 5 years up to 40 years in federal prison. On March 11, 2026, both Alan and Ann sold their vehicle, a black 2010 Mercedes-Benz GLK 350, to CarMax, then used the funds to obtain plane tickets to fly to China. The mother, likely Jia Zhangzheng, lived in the same address as Alan and Ann, who is a Chinese national who is detained in the Glades County Detention Center and currently in ICE custody. Analysts comment, MacDill Air Force Base is a military installation where U.S. Army Central Command, CENTCOM, is located. Similarly, this military installation contains U.S. Special Operations Command, SOCOM. CENTCOM's area of responsibility would be the Middle East and Egypt, Central Asia, and some parts of South Asia, such as Pakistan. Recently, CENTCOM has been involved in operations and strikes jointly with Israel against Iran, such as Operation Epic Fury. While both Alan and Ann are U.S. citizens, it is unknown if they were born in the United States or became naturalized. While there has been concern regarding lone wolf attacks and Iranian sleeper cells operating within the United States since Operation Epic Fury, such as an active shooting in Austin, Texas earlier this month, this incident points out for it to be more Chinese in nature, such as close relatives being Chinese nationals and a prime suspect fleeing to China, in which sabotage occurs domestically within the United States as one vector of fifth-generation warfare. It is possible to look up higher associations with the Zhengs and possible entities controlled or operated by the Chinese Communist Party, such as possible handlers with the Ministry of State Security, or MSS, which is the Chinese equivalent of the FBI and U.S. intelligence community combined. Without the granular details being released to the public, such as communications of the methods or doctrine used in their operations or IED construction, it is difficult to narrow down a conclusion with what is available to an OSINT analyst with extremely crude and basic tools. Over in Virginia, on March 27, 2026, Kenneth Michael Dunn, more well known as Mike Dunn, self-admits on X that he is an FBI informant, posting a lengthy 8.5-minute long video, along with a written script detailing his activities as an informant from 2020 to 2023, and claims of being a fighter for the Ukrainian armed forces.
I'm going to give a lot of you what you've been waiting for, and I'm going to read because I have everything written down, and it helps me keep my train of thought. My name is Mike Dunn. Some of you know me as the Boogaloo Boy. Here's the truth no one could ever quite prove. From 2020 to 2023, I was an FBI informant, and from 2022 to 2024, I relayed ground-level intelligence out of Ukraine to a Pentagon-linked intelligence officer indirectly. This isn't an apology, and I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm done letting other people tell my story wrong or speculate while attempting to tell my story. At 17, I joined the Marine Corps. I earned the title, earned the EGA, and then lost my dream all to a medical discharge less than a year in before I could finish what I started. That stayed with me. It felt like a failure, and it never really left. At 19, I found a different path. I built militia units across my state. Fast. I stepped into leadership, organized people, and gained attention quickly. And again, I apologize, I'm reading, but it helps me keep my thoughts right. Media outlets started calling. Interviews followed. I wasn't hiding. I was right out in front of it. Vice News, PBS Frontline, RT, News to Share, etc. By 2020, I was all in. Rallies, protests, confrontation, you name it. I publicly challenged the direction Governor Northam was pushing the state of Virginia. I believed in the Constitution, in the Second Amendment, and I didn't care who disagreed. Then the FBI showed up. 2 agents, calm, professional. One of them prior military. They didn't threaten me. They talked about duty, about consequences, and about reality. And I made a decision. I became an informant, not because I was scared, but because I believed some of the people around me were crossing lines that were going to get innocent people hurt. Throughout 2020, I provided intelligence on Antifa extremist networks operating in and around Richmond, movements, conversations, patterns, not guesses, observations that I made personally. I even attended marches wearing all black and a mask over my face to fit in and listen and report. I retroactively reported on Boogaloo Boys, Subject 1 and Subject 2. I've removed names according to my lawyer's advice, who talked about coordinating with who they believed was a foreign terrorist organization, Hamas. They were convicted. However, my information about them was retroactive. Later, I found out that connection, or Hamas, was federal. Make of that what you want. Then there was Boogaloo Boys, Subject 3. Over the phone, he talked about escalation, violence, political targets, and mentioned a plan to kill the governor of Michigan, and wanted me to make a plan to kill the governor of Virginia. I refused. I reported everything. At the time, I didn't fully understand who he was. Then an attack on a police facility in Minneapolis hit the news, and suddenly things lined up for me, and I confirmed everything I knew to the FBI. In 2021, after the events in D.C., people tried to tie my name to it, including Trump's defense team, which felt funny to me because I'd been informing on Antifa and left-wing agitators at the time, and only made posts about the Capitol attack on J6 to cement my place in the anti-government ideology. I had nothing to do with starting it, planning it, or pushing it, but once your name gets pulled into something like that, the truth doesn't matter. At the time, by the way, I'm reading this of my own free will. I just want y'all to be clear about this. This is something I've been wanting to do. At the time, the FBI knew I was not a threat to national security, and I was actually assisting the FBI in matters that affected the nation's security, but I'm assuming they couldn't simply tell Trump's legal team that. Then came far-right Alex Jones supporter Subject 4, which a lot of you know about because this is the moment that people started speculating. He sent me money, invited me to Maine to build what he called a compound. I went. On the way, he acquired an illegal, fully automatic AK, which I generally have no issue with, as I support the Second Amendment without fine print. But then his behavior shifted, erratic, paranoid, unstable. He started talking about explosives, materials, ideas that weren't theoretical anymore. While we were in D.C., he talked about starting a gunfight in D.C. while we were there, and then on the road after when he purchased the edited AK. I had a friend run a background check on him. Now, I was reporting him at the time, right after he bought the AK. I reported on him. I realized this guy's a threat to society. I had a friend run a background check on him and realized he had been charged with a violent crime before against family. He then mentioned bombing a hospital. At 20 years old, I had to decide whether I was going to stay loyal to someone spiraling or act before something happened. I reported everything. By the time I got away and made it to law enforcement, he already had explosive components. He was arrested shortly after. He turned state's evidence against the manufacturer and the seller and took a plea deal with a charge of possession of ammunition by a felon and released onto the streets 10 months later. I also flagged one individual operating under aliases like, I'm not going to say those, different names, same trajectory, and I believe might have been the same person escalating towards mass violence as they spoke of planning a literal war in the streets of D.C. Here's the part a lot of people don't understand. I was making these decisions at 19, 20, 21 years old. I had no roadmap, no perfect answers, just consequences. So yes, I informed. I did it deliberately. And I did it believing I was protecting innocent people. That decision has now cost me everything. Friends, trust, reputation. People call me a traitor. Benedict Arnold. I call it making the call others wouldn't, and patriotism to a country that is supposed to protect the innocent. In 2022, I went to Ukraine, not to talk, but to fight. I spent extended time there off and on through the end of 2023 in an active war zone as a grenadier responsible for anti-tank work. During this time, I took part in the offensive for Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and defensive Lysychansk, Gogorivka, Zaitsevo, Soledar, and Bakhmut. And Avdiivka, sorry. I am wanted by authorities in Russia for alleged war crimes involving a shovel and what I would call a combatant if the situation actually happened. It's just alleged. I received multiple recommendations due to valor under fire, specifically in Zaitsevo, Gogorivka, and Bakhmut. While I was there, I passed along battlefield reports to U.S. intelligence contact, accurate, real-time information from the ground voluntarily. I even received formal recognition for it from an officer within the Pentagon in the form of a memorandum. During that time, I was injured with small pieces of shrapnel to my face and arm and a brain injury that messed up my mobility for a bit and caused severe swelling and temporary speech problems from a ricocheting piece of artillery I took to the top of my helmet. That does something to you that doesn't go away. I won't take the time here to get into each combat situation, but it was heavy, fast, and a lot of casualties, at one point topping 80%. Our biggest group of deserters were GWAT vets because of the tempo and lack of air support artillery support in Kazovac. After that, I spent time in another active conflict overseas until a friend hit a small mine and I took shrapnel to my right arm and knee, but that's all I'm going to say about that conflict for now. In 2024, a journalist figured it out. He interviewed me and I lied straight to his face. At the time, I still believed that silence was a part of the job. In 2025, I was walking out of a movie theater and I called him back and told him the truth as best as I could remember it. Ward takes pieces of your memory with it, really it does. Sometimes I don't remember what I ate for dinner yesterday. However, I realized that I had no reason to hide what I had done because truly in my heart of hearts, I believe I did what was best for the red, white, and blue. I only regret having to lie to my personal friends. This will upset people. Some will feel betrayed. Some will say they knew all along, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't regret serving my country at home or abroad. Not once. The only thing I regret is lying to people who trust me. That part stays with you. I lost my closest friend because of this. What I have left is simple: my family, my beliefs, and the certainty that I made the decisions I thought were right at the time. This is who I am. You say what you want. It won't change anything. It will not change the past. We can Monday morning quarterback. It won't change anything. I love my country, and I stand by her even if she might be wrong sometimes. If I was called tomorrow with an opportunity to go to Iran, I would for the sake of my country and to make it one less soldier they would have to send. God bless you, and God bless America. I hope this clears up some things for you, and I've been waiting a long time to say this, and I just decided to come out with it. So it is what it is, and yeah, that's it.
Various members of the constitutional militia, the Virginia Cacoas, as well as a significant chunk of firearms-related entities and individuals, have responded to the announcement, heavily mocking and insulting Dunn.
Fuck, you're putting this shit in a fucking text. Why the fuck do you think that I'm not texting you a fucking response? Stop fucking texting this shit. First and foremost, I'm not trying to convince you of my fucking innocence. I was sharing something fucking random because it was a spillover from conversation with Ford. I'm not in a bad spot, dude. Jesus, fuck, man. Now you've ruined my fucking night. appreciate it. That's why I'm killing myself.
Independent journalist Ford Fisher, from News to Share, confirmed that Dunn had reached out to him regarding the statement. A day later, on March 28, 2026, Dunn deleted his X account at Tactical Gnome 23, widely presumed to be due to the immediate and overwhelming backlash against him regarding his admission to being an FBI informant. A TikTok page with the handle at Tactical on Gnome continues to have videos be posted to the time of reporting. Analysts comment, Mike Dunn emerged as one of the most prominent leaders and public figureheads of the Boogaloo movement in the early 2020s. He founded and led multiple groups during the exact period he was serving as an FBI informant. What sets this case apart is Dunn's voluntary self-admission. Prior suspicions of Dunn glowing brighter than Chernobyl are now confirmed beyond a reasonable doubt. The aesthetics and IFF indicators of Boogaloo militias would typically be that of Hawaiian shirts as well as a design derived from the United States flag, in which a color palette is swapped to a black and white flag with a single stripe in a Hawaiian floral print. The canton of stars replaced with that of an igloo. Notable splinters and groups have formed from the Boogaloo militia. While not exhaustive, this would include Mike Dunn's Last Sons of Liberty group, which is a group led and recruited from Dunn during his capacity as a federal informant, the Unity Coalition led by Panvidya Magnus, which has floundered due to them being Antifa in nature, yet the far left refuses to work with the right and the nihilists, and they refuse to work with the far left in reciprocation. The Mujahideen, which had Benjamin Teeter, Michael Solomon, and a confidential human source, likely Dunn, selling an automatic AK-47 to an FBI agent posing as Hamas. A subgroup around Michigan, which had Tim Teagan, a close associate of members of the Wolverine Watchmen, and was arrested for having cannabis with obtaining a firearm. The Grizzly Scouts, which had Stephen Carrillo, was sentenced to 41 years in prison for a drive-by on a federal courthouse, as well as the Virginia Kikoas, which have shifted over to being a constitutional militia. The Virginia Kikoas has a separate Glow So Bright report written on them. With Mike Dunn being documented to use deception and falsehoods on behalf of the federal government, such as stating having a fatalist view while leading operations with his group, the willingness to go rapidly into a kinetic non-political means of social change, or having public claims on absolutism on weapons possession, and then ratting out others for possession of weapons, is why he shouldn't be trusted. Dunn's claims of heroism within Ukraine should be viewed with extreme skepticism, unless there is independent documentation by senior members of a unit, observations by separate units, verifiable testimony and accounts by the enemy, or footage from combat cameramen, drone imagery, or action camera footage. It is difficult to accept Dunn's claims due to his reputation to lie and carry little credibility and weight. Open source indicators show that Dunn may possibly currently be residing or hiding in Southeast Asia, likely Thailand, using geoint observations of the background such as foliage, structures, and the presence of vehicles not seen in North America. Prior posts by Dunn in the Thai language, as well as claims of living in Thailand in conjunction with geoint and hopping around various border countries, staying as long as a tourist visa could allow. Dunn's behavior is a textbook example of a chilling effect in terms of citizen preparedness organization groups, such as those which exist to provide assistance during events of a natural disaster, and which a state fails to provide assistance to the people. These agitators create or infiltrate a group, spout two-faced rhetoric, and then get the people to follow that cause they lead and follow their word to be arrested or neutralized. Efforts for the justice for Duncan Limp are in vain, in which the Montgomery County SWAT team fatally shot him in 2020. Then the state would then be extremely opaque in how they handle transparency in the release of body cam footage and supporting documentation to the public. Therefore, justice cannot be reached. Whenever individuals in leadership positions within these spaces appear to be glowing, Remember the Mike Dunn case. A single compromised leader in a position of influence can inflict significant damage on an entire network. This tactic allows the state to shape narratives and neutralize potential opposition through cutouts while maintaining plausible deniability. The broader lesson remains. Prepared citizens must exercise rigorous vetting and self-reliance, especially in an environment of selective enforcement and hybrid threats. Analyst comments for today's RED4CE tracking report. Foreign adversaries continue to conduct influence operations against the United States through intelligence services and extensive funding networks. At the same time, the federal government has shown little effort to investigate, neutralize, or prosecute individuals involved in treason, espionage, conspiracy, acting as foreign agents, tax evasion, sanctions evasion, or providing material support to terrorists. Non-state Marxist armed groups have received documented support from foreign communist governments. Examples include the Socialist Rifle Association, Armed Careers SLC, and the John Brown Gun Clubs. In citizen preparedness circles, provocateurs like Mike Dunn illustrate the damage caused by Fed jacketing. These individuals infiltrate groups, encourage monitored illegal activity, and create severe setbacks. They also help shape public narratives that portray prepared citizens as enemies of society. The state is not doing enough. As prepared citizens, we stand largely alone against the fifth-generation warfare waged by foreign adversaries and those who enable violence domestically. Act accordingly. Sources for this intelligence report can be found in the text companion piece for this RED4CE tracking report on the official X page at GSB_actual. This concludes the recent RED4CE tracking report, published and written on March 30th, 2026. Lead analyst is GSB_actual. Thank you very much for your attendance, patronage, and support. Have a good day.